Thank you again for your awesome son, Shawn. And as a humble mother, you did not want to be on the poster because you didn't want the spotlight to be on you, but instead on Shawn. Be that as it may, when you step away from the research and you start thinking about your own kitchen table conversation with Shawn and the family, talk about what does building brain capital look like in your life on a daily basis?
We have to understand how the brain works. So repetition is really, really key. So what we love to do in our home, and then we talk to parents and teachers. We just had an event last week in Simi Valley, California, and they have the same question as well. And it's really how does it become a culture, a part of the culture. So in our home, you eat your leafy vegetables because it builds your mitochondria. And what does your mitochondria do? And so once again, when I'm learning it, and he's learning it, how do we bring it into the daily conversation, right? Right before he goes to bed, we do our bedtime routine. And we pray. So we say, and let's get ready for us to sleep so our brain can clear out the toxins. So our brain can log all of our memories. And so we repeat it over and over again. And that's really what works, right? It's not really just what you say, but it's what you do. And for us to model it as well is key. So I try to bring it up throughout the day, right? When we wake up, we get our sunlight. What are we putting in our bodies? How are we going through our day? The music. We have to practice it. Why? Because we're myelinating our neurons. Myelination of neurons is when you do something new and it's hard. Remember the first time you drove a car? You're like, okay, where's the brake? Right? Where's the gear? But now most of you can get in the car and you just go, right? Because that track, that brain route is myelinated, right? Because you've done it over. So we talk about that. Yeah, it's frustrating now because it's not myelinated, but so we just add it into our vocabulary.
So your last paper you wrote had to do with art and the brain. So we've had music, and we're going to hear some more music from George and Anabrata. But talking about art, and talking about why you wrote that paper, that art is a foundation when it comes to rebuilding or building the brain health. Why is art so important? We see a couple of teachers and parents here, so talk about why art is important.
And it was actually for the AI Collective. So this is a global community of AI enthusiasts and top people in AI. And I just brought up the idea and they went for it. And I got a lot of feedback from it because the AI world isn't hearing about oh wait, art can actually help me be a better person and do better. Just like this is the era of the brain, I think this is the era of arts finally getting their due. Because the neuroscience is now showing what true artists, and we're all artists by the way, we do communicate that as well. All of you, this is why we have crayons on the table to bring you back to your true artistry. What we're learning now is, number one, the work of people here who they share, but Dr. David Eagleman, Dr. Charles Lim over at Stanford, Nina Kraus over at Northwestern, Daniel Levitin, is that the brain is musical first, right? And so who are we to not train a child in what their brain automatically came in? Right? There's also, I just saw new research of all Alzheimer's research and how it is looking at the rhythm of the brain, and rhythm is music. There's a lot of research on dance and Parkinson's. Dr. Talia Goldstein, I just interviewed her on my podcast, came out with the 8 habits of the top leaders in this era, have a theater background. Right? And so what we're saying, and Shawn and Shane and I, his father, by the way, his father does all the illustrations for the book, so this is a family affair. And we're trying to communicate that, the way to be successful in this is to look at the family unit and make sure the family is grounded in what we have to do in order to build the communities. But we're saying that it will be a neurological injustice not to offer the human being, especially the human being in the first 10 to 15 years of life, an arts background. We're pairing it up against keeping a child from learning how to read, is now lined up with keeping a child from the arts because of the era that we're heading into. Dr. Ninat, no, not Dr. Ninit Seth? Nitin Seth. He worked for McKinsey, and he's the CEO of Incedo. Anyway, I just found out about his book that came out about half a year ago. It's called The Human Advantage in the Era of AI. And he talks about, and a few other people are coming out with this, the way to prepare ourselves and our kids for a high-tech world is a low-tech foundation, an analog foundation. So, folks are like, okay, well, why, it's expensive, but, why you have your kid in piano classes and theater and makeshift, and why did I put Legos, on your tables? That's the foundation that we're going to, and leaders are going to be looking for, of what is your analog skills, because the technology is changing so quickly.
So you do a lot of work in communities. In fact, the very first time we met at the UN, I was blown away how you had us get on stage and do all kinds of crazy dancing. We're not going to do it today, by the way, but it was quite interesting.
So you think.
Well,
You just wait.
But no, let's talk about neurosomatic creativity. You do a lot of work in communities. We here at Martha's Vineyard, a small little community. How can a place like Martha's Vineyard benefit from the work organizations like yours are doing in terms of building that community brain capital? How can this community benefit from the work you're doing?
Well, the beautiful concept of brain capital is that it's brain health and brain skills, right? And that they're two sides of the same coin, and they highly affect one another. And I think that reframing is key. Another thing is reframing how we interact with it. So neurosomatic creativity is a term that we coined. Neurosomatic is a term that's already been out there. It just means the neural brain, mind, and the body. But we're looking at how can we better train leaders? I do a lot of corporate training, but I'm also doing K-12 as well. How can leaders be better leaders? By connecting the mind, the brain, and the body through the arts for non-arts areas. So how can the accountant be a better accountant by picking up the flute? How can the lawyer be a better lawyer by going to an improv class? How can a surgeon be a better surgeon by taking up painting? Does anyone know by a man named George Carver Washington? George Washington Carver. Sorry, so you're like, I don't know him. But that one I do know. He lived right at the end, and he was born right at the end of the Civil War. Ended up being a major inventor, a botanist, right? And a lot of people don't know he was an excellent painter. He won international painting awards. He was a musician, and he had the ability to sit with heads of state. India called on him, Russia even called on him and sat with presidents, but he also helped the former enslaved people learn how to work the land. So he had a high cultural competency as well, but he had an arts background. And so what we are positioning in our research and in our work in corporate and in K-12 is saying, if you want to develop the top leaders in this AI world and build the best brain capital for your area, you cannot leave the arts out of it. And that's why we had the brain capital at the Capitol event in Phoenix, Arizona. Should have invited him. I didn't know he existed, but now I do. And now we're connected with Ohio Brain Capital Alliance. Say hello. So she launched her and her partner launched that. So like, how can states get together? How can we help one another? But how can we make sure the arts has an integral, not a side part, but an integral part of the conversation? And we think Arizona could be one of the national leaders in that conversation.
I should say, when we were putting together this event, there is one thing, my wife and I always talk about is whenever I do something, it's always the last minute where things come together. And I posted on LinkedIn something about this event, and our dear friend from Ohio linked up with me and flew all the way here from Ohio to be here this weekend for this event. She's never met me.
Woohoo! Go Ohio, Buckeyes, right? We have a Buckeye, Arizona.
So it tells us that the movement around brain capital, brain health is important because communities are coming together. Even though you haven't met, people are still flying in to come here. So talk about the underfunded community, because part of the challenge we have is underprivileged neighborhoods sometimes never get to hear about all this stuff, right? Talk about what you're all doing in Arizona and elsewhere in terms of making sure that brain health is not an elite issue. Brain health education is not something for the elite. It's something for the entire, like I think Michael and George alluded to, it's something for the entire a population to benefit from. So talk about the work around that.
Sure, and thank you for that. One of my gifts that I say that I have is I can sit with neuroscientists and heads of state and then go hang out with third graders. You know, I can move social spheres pretty quickly. And with that, we've been to the United Nations Days events. That's where we met Mr. George and you. We've been to the UCLA Brain Health event and all the events around. And I still see the same groups of people, right? And we're looking at, okay, well, how do we get this high esoteric information into communities, right? And I had a meeting with the executive director of the Brain Council, something like the National Brain Council of an organization about brains, and she said it could take 17 years to get out of research and into the community. Mm-hmm. And with the stats that you all are sharing, you know, we don't have 17 years. My nephew just lost his best friend to suicide. You know, so this is hitting home for us. And I don't know about you, but 17 years, that's a whole generation. And as you said, 2007, smartphones came online. We saw how that ended. We can't just close our eyes to the AI revolution. We have to kind of stay a step ahead and make sure. So with that, some of you won these books out there. So my son and I, we do research, and now he's getting older, so he can start doing a lot of his own. But we said, okay, well, how can we take all this high academic research, right, peer-reviewed? I'm a UCLA Bruin, so you got to make sure the stuff is good. But make it look like a children's book, which I've had adults do this with their teams. You know, these are just poetry prompts. You can take this out and type it up and have a good 3-hour conversation with some of these things, right? But how do we talk to the parents and the teachers and the leaders in the back, right? And then in Arizona, they have a high homeschool population. So someone said, oh, well, you should turn this into a curriculum. So I did. I took each of the intelligences, like the natural intelligence or spatial or musical, and we did like 8 lessons so people can know how to do that. And so these are called multi-generational books or inner child books. And then if you have something that we'll do at the very end, but you have smart cards on your table, you can check those out. So another thing that we were thinking of is like, okay, not the average mom with two jobs and she has 3 kids. She may not want to go through a thick curriculum, like a teacher type of curriculum. What's one thing that she can do to help her brain, but also help her kids' brains or her whoever she's around with? And so these are they're attached to this book, The Brain, My Brain. But just, you know, what's one thing that you can do? What's one thing that you can do with metaphorical thinking? Like, are you more like, you know, a tree or a leaf? Okay, why? Here's an activity. Here's a quote to contemplate or to talk about what it means to you. And so what are just ways that we can incorporate? And the next book we're coming out with this year is The Brain Symphony. And it's basically the 7 pillars of building brain capital. Canada has 6 pillars of brain health. We believe the arts deserve their own pillars, so we added 7 pillars. And it goes over food, social interaction, sleep, stress reduction, and the arts. And I believe there's one more. So and Shawn can rattle them off for you. And so basically, we're just trying to get this out there. Right now, it's just us. It's really a mom and pop type of thing. But hopefully, we'll connect with him in California, and just how do we get all the great work you all are doing into the hands of Mario and Mike and Jamal and Susie, who are like 3rd grade, 10th grade, who need the tools but may not read our 80-page paper and 8-point font, peer-reviewed, you know, journals. Like, who's reading this? I am, but they're not, right? And they 2 moms started crying in front of me last Saturday. They don't know what to do. One kid is addicted to phones. And there's a phone addiction camp now. You can take your kids to an addiction camp for phones and screens. The digital dementia, I just found out about that a few months ago, and I shared that with the moms last week. So I just see myself as the bridge. I see Shawn as the bridge for his generation, myself for the moms and dads and parents and teachers of my grouping. And we just need a bridge from all the cool stuff everyone knows over here that's not getting to the communities down over here.
Well, this is great. Let's take one or two questions for Genein. Any questions for Genein from the audience? In the back? There's a question there way in the back.
Hey!
It's great.
Great food, too.
Great food, too. Thanks for the food.
I know I'm working right now.
Oh, you're not working. This is go ahead. Thanks for the
I'm so
food.
grateful to be here. I was given a flyer a few days ago to be and I'm working, and what is it's so crazy.
No, you were meant to be here.
It's amazing. And like you said, the arts. I'm 25, and I used to be creative. My grandma was an amazing artist, and I let it fall off. I'm on my phone all the time, and I've been taking it upon myself to just doodle, just to get it out there. I'm wondering, I want to understand why the arts are so helpful. Is it because it's new? Is it because I want to understand more about how I can get behind it more. I want to encourage myself to do it, even if it's just doodling while I'm watching TV. It might be bad, but at least I'm doing something.
Well, definitely connect with me online, because that's a 3-hour conversation right now. But once we power our students and everyone, but especially our students, of how their brain works, there's something called the default mode network. So when you're on a task, your brain is focused, but when you're daydreaming, things like that, your default mode kind of comes into full force, and that's when you are basically thinking to yourself. You're being curious within yourself. You're not ruminating, worrying, but that is where a lot of your creativity happens. There's research now on doodling that can activate the default mode network. With music, there's rhythm. A lot of people don't know reading fluencies are connected to rhythm. So kids who can't clap on the beat, right? When he was 3 months old, I was just tapping his seriously, I was like, you are not going to stand in front of me or next to me in church and be off the beat. I'm sorry, we are not having that. So that was more of a selfish thing, and then falling into the research of saying how critical rhythm is. And so I'm just saying, the next books we're doing is called Oh Baby, just targeted to moms and dads who are having babies or 0 through 5. Like, they just don't know. It's not that they don't want to do it. No one's telling them about, of course, reading and sing-song and dancing. And the research is just coming out hard now of saying just the arts are it. And just if we need people with complex neural systems to interact with this whole AI world, the arts are one of the best ways to complexify your brain. Right? And to get you ready for a future you have no idea what it looks like, you have to go through improvisation training. Every CEO should go be calling her to see what type of sessions she has for improvisational leadership. That will be a must. I'm putting my money on that, right? So a quick plug, we just have a write-up of what we're proposing and why we think it works, and we would love for you all to just look at it. And we believe that this is a part of the solution, not the solution, but a part of this solution of getting it into communities where in the end we're trying to get this work.
Okay. There's one comment?
Yeah. I'm a nurse, and I've worked in psychiatric nursing, and I can tell you, listening to what you're talking about art, that's one of the treatments that we do with our psychiatric patients. We have art classes, and we can tell how they're thinking by the art that they're painting. And it does help the psychiatrists, the neuropsychologists, the nursing staff. So art is very important. So for me to hear you say that, it was really great.
It's critical.
So thank you.
Fantastic. Got a question there from Ohio?
Miss Ari.
Miss Ari.
Well, thank you both for the kind shout out. I'm Ari. I am a recent co-founder of the Ohio Brain Capital Alliance. I'm a health law attorney by trade, and I wanted to just say thank you to Genein for mentioning the focus on analog skills. I know that analog culture has been trending probably in the last 6 months recently because of AI and everything we're hearing in the news. I wanted to say, as I mentioned quickly, one of the things that I think we've seen very recently is the push from law schools and also medical schools that I've spoken to about going back to handwriting outlines, tech being basically outlawed in the classroom. I'm sure everybody has mixed feelings about how strict that is and whether that's necessary or not, but I wanted to ask about where do you see the development of analog skills in personal life, education, or work? How do you see that trending and developing in the future? Do you see that as necessary and is something maybe that should be in tandem with the use of AI and tech so that we can maintain the brain skills and strength? What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, and first of all, I'm not anti-AI, so I use it with some of this stuff to print out these things that you have on your chest. I was like, let me just put that in AI. Let me see what comes up, right? But like it was said here, it's like how do we stay ahead of it and protect our thinking as it continues to evolve. I taught third grade for several years, so I'm a teacher by trade, and I also taught at California State University Northridge, and then corporate training. So I have literally worked with the entire lifespan, right? And they took handwriting out of third grade, right? And now they're starting to put it back in. Finland and Sweden are doing things. My son just started his handwriting lesson, and so we know that it interacts with the brain. The book that I brought up. The Human Advantage in the AI Age, or the Human Edge. He's looking at, like pattern recognition and all these skills that come from analog, that come from Lego building. And it is, I believe, where the school systems will be headed to as long as the research and people like me can actually communicate and translate the research. They will be picking up. And reflection. I'm just like, he's giving you time after this to reflect. The book that I mentioned, he talks about the leaders of tomorrow, which all of our students need to be in that leader, that entrepreneurial mindset. They have to know how to stop, get into their default mode network, right? And when to turn it on, and how to reflect. And so with Shawn, I have pictures, I'm gonna print them out, and he has his little journal, like, how was it going to Martha's Vineyard? I felt like this. Dr. Jones said this, because I have to teach him at that age, you need to stop, think, and reflect. How did you feel? How did the people treat you? Were you nervous? What would you do differently? These are skills that he has to get now, that when he's 25 and I'm not, hovering over, not that I'm hovering over him now, but, he has to employ on his own, right? Especially in that future that we don't know what looks like. So come and check out the books, but how do we get these tools to the moms? And the 3 women that I sat next to on the ferry going to the island, they're about 25-ish, and they said, we need to know what you know, because they don't have kids yet, and they need to know what to do beforehand. So that's the last tip I'll give, is we should not wait till people get the 3 months they're about to have a baby or whatever. We need to start front-loading this information as early as possible, so when they start their families and everything, they already know what to do.
Okay, so we're gonna sort of calm down, unwind, but before I do that, I want to do a shout out. And this is very important, probably the most important thing I've said all day. So the lady in the back who came and spoke, way in the back, yes. So we were walking on circuit and she was sitting down eating her lunch. And I walked by her and I said, here's a flyer, would you come? Yeah, maybe, yes, I will come. And I had no idea that she was working at a catering company that's preparing the food. But I'm saying this, especially for George, because George, what you've been doing for years now around the world is becoming now a grassroots movement where by walking down the street, meeting people who you don't think will show up, she showed up. The other shout out is for the lady in the back there, the professor from Columbia University. She was sitting down and she said, I'll show up with my husband and that, and she kept her word. So I think it tells us that if we just reach out and tell people about this thing called brain health, they may say they'll come. Some may not, but a few will. So I think this is a positive sign.
But you have to add that we need to be explicit with saying you showing up is a part of your brain health. People don't understand that when I meet people, that's why I go to these meetings. Sometimes I'm the only one, I'm the only artist, even though we're all artists. But a lot of times, and I'll talk to you about this, Arizona needs to get out to these meetings. I'm like, where's Arizona? No, Arizona's not here. Where are the artists? The artists are not here. And so I'm challenging them, because when we get into these spaces and we meet people who are not like us, our brain now has to refigure and work and move things around. Like, wait, who are you? So you being here is a part of your brain health strategy.
Yes, really appreciate it. So Anu and George, they're going to come and take us home with some very nice reflecting music.
Yeah.
And while they do that, I'm going to just step out and see if I wanted to recognize Nada Davidson, so she's still here. But please join me in the meantime. Thank Genein for excellent presentation.
Thank you. Please connect.